Hi, welcome to Get a Job, Tips and Secrets for the Academic Job Market. I'm Lee Hall, Associate Professor of Literacy Studies at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. You can find me online at leahall.wordpress.com, where I write about issues of teaching in higher education. And feel free to send me an email asking me any questions that you have about the job market, leahall39@gmail.com, and I will work to get them addressed in future episodes. All right, so today's question. If you are late to the job application process, will this ruin your timing? So what I did here is this person had actually a list of questions subsumed under that larger one of, is it bad to be late to the process? And so what I've done is I've just listed off the questions here, and I'm going to talk about each one. So first of all, if you don't get an offer until summer, will this ruin your timing? So let's say you're late. And what do we mean by late when we talk about going on the job market? I would say if you're on the job market starting anytime in January on, you're probably late to the game, okay? Now, sometimes really good jobs do post late in the game. But if you haven't been applying for any, or you weren't sure you were going to finish, and then all of a sudden it's January, February, March, and you say, hey, I think I can get this thing done. The thing to think about is not just an issue of if you don't get an offer, what does that mean until summer? What does that mean for you in terms of timing and when do you finish? But if you, the job applications, they come out in the fall, all right? So what you're going to see is a lot of really good, interesting job apps come out predominantly before December, okay? That's not to say that some really good, interesting places won't have, ads come out after the first of the year. Sometimes it happens, but what's likely happening is that if you are late to the game, you've missed a lot of good opportunities for that year, okay? Or not, maybe, because sometimes it's kind of not a lot going on some years, but let's just assume you've missed a lot of good opportunities, right? So one thing to think about is it worth slowing down and extending, for another year to finish up, just so you might have access to better jobs in the fall? Or are you okay with taking something that maybe isn't your first choice, isn't the best, fit for you because you just want a job, you just need to move on? That's a personal decision, okay? Because you never know, right? If you decide, hey, you know what, I'm not going to finish, I'm late to the job application process, I'm not going to finish this year. I'm going to just slow myself down and extend it by another year. That doesn't mean that there's going to be really good jobs in the fall, okay? Or jobs that suit you in the fall, or that you will get interviewed for really good jobs that come out in the fall, right? It's always a gamble. It's always a risk. So you have to decide what you're willing to gamble and take a risk on, right? Is it worth it to take maybe like a job that you would not really prefer to have? It's okay for now. You finish up, you take the job, and then in a couple of years, you're looking for another one. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Maybe that's just a situation you find yourself in, and that's what it's going to be, okay? Or, so think about that. Should you hold off your dissertation until you get a job, right? Should you hold off on finishing up your dissertation, defending it, submitting it, etc.? Well, I don't think so. In general, I don't think so. Now, in the previous scenario I gave, right, I was talking about you weren't expecting to finish, and then all of a sudden you thought, hey, I can get this done, but now I'm late to the job process. Well, then maybe, right, that's when you have to decide, right, do I want to hurry up and finish, and I'm coming into this process late, or do I want to just stay out, go for another year, slow down, and start up again with the job process in the fall? That's one thing. But if you can go on the market in the fall and start applying for jobs, you should, okay? And when you interview as a doctoral student, one of the questions that you're going to be asked is, what is your timeline for completion? And I will tell you right now that when I was on the job market, I had a March defense date. Like, it was in December, we scheduled it for March. So it was already scheduled. I had an exact date, an exact time, a room reserved, the whole 9 yards. And my dissertation was completed by the end of the year. not complete. It was completed in the sense that I went ahead and handed it over to my committee around December, beginning of January, and then I defended it in March because that was the first date where we could really get everybody to come together. Is a little complicated. So when search committees ask me this question, when do you expect to finish? I could tell them, basically, I'm already done, right? I've finished it. It's been submitted to my committee. This is my defense date. That looks really good because in offering people jobs that are doctoral students, we want to know that you're going to finish your dissertation before you show up on our front door. So if, that's something you want to think about. Now, I think the other question here is, you could have a defense date, but then maybe the job market's not going so well for you. Do you want to cancel it? Cancel your defense? That's something to discuss with your advisor in terms of if that's allowable, what that means for you, what you would be doing the following academic year. Those are questions to discuss, with somebody that understands your context. And then this last question, is it bad to have a gap year? So the idea behind the gap year is maybe you didn't go on the job market because you didn't really think you're going to finish, but then as the year went on, it went a little better than you thought it would, and all of a sudden you're done. You finished like in the summer. But you didn't apply for any jobs, or maybe you just applied for a couple and they didn't pan out, and now you've got this gap year. Well, first of all, you're going on the market in the fall. You haven't really had a gap year yet. It's just starting. So I don't think that that's terribly bad. I think the question to ask yourself is, what are you going to do with that gap year? Are you going to use it productively? Because you might as well, okay? So are you going to be teaching classes at an institution, even if it's just one or two? Are you going to be publishing off your dissertation? What are you going to be doing? Because those are things that you can outline in your letter, right? You can let search committees know, hey, I finished up in the summer. I defended, I'm done. I'm on the job market now, and this is what I got going on this year, okay? So if I can see as a search committee member that you're using this year in a very productive way, and if I have a phone interview with you, let's say in December or January, and you're telling me all these things that you've already done, that's going to look great, okay? That's going to look like, hey, this is somebody that knows what they're doing, that has their act together, that's being very thoughtful, that is making sure that they're staying productive, and, making sure that that they are organized and together and are using their time in a way that's going to serve them really well during this year. So it's not necessarily bad. I think it comes down to what you do with that year. Again, it's very important to discuss this with your advisor or other faculty members that can really help you understand and think through, if you have a gap year, what are you going to do with it?